quite a few of them. And I manage the Association of Commonwealth Universities Commonwealth Climate Resilience Network, which is a mouthful, but not the biggest mouthful I've ever heard. And in that, we're really led by universities in the Pacific and in the Caribbean to look at climate resilience and tackle the problems globally and tackle the issues globally, but also really having our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the places that are worst affected by climate change, and wanting to hear that from our colleagues who are really dealing with this on campus, but also in the communities around the campus as well. So Joel's already talked about our event next week. We can put our details in the chat so that if anyone who is at an ACU member university would like to join, they're welcome to come along and attend. And within our network, we have senior academics as well, mid-career researchers and early career researchers. And our desire is to help mentor and guide, as well as use that peer support network to really push forward tackling this wicked problem. So thank you very much.
Spectacular. Thank you so much, Jane, for sharing that. And yeah, if you could pop that into the chat, I think it's quite useful for people so that they already have access to the link. But also you can drop me an email if you want further information on all of this, and I can guide you towards how to access it. I think what you can see from this is that there really is an interest in generating a kind of long-term project towards supporting and facilitating the development of early career researchers. And we want to ensure that all of the initiatives that have been developed, not just in ClimateU, but in among the range of partners who work within the network, remain ongoing, and the longevity of those projects also allows more long-term kind of real impact to take place. So with that said, I will now give Charlie an opportunity to introduce herself, Charlotte Nasi. And as I said earlier, she was the research fellow who was doing an incredible job on this project before I joined. So Charlie, you should be able to speak in a moment, and yeah.
Thanks, Palesa. I hope everyone can hear me. I also can't use my video, but it's not at all your fault, Palesa. Please don't apologise. There are various functions with Zoom. It's brilliant to join this event. I've been on maternity leave for the past 6 months, so it's fantastic to be able to come back at a point where people are sharing their learnings. And it's really brilliant, as Palesa said, to hear from the countries involved who've been setting up these participatory action research groups. We've had lots of challenges, as I'm sure you're aware, for a project that's been launched in 2020. Some other things happened worldwide in 2020, as we all know. So I think it's a great credit to all of the different countries for actually getting things launched. Participatory action research is so much about face-to-face kind of work. So I think it will be really interesting to hear about the opportunities and the challenges that that kind of work offers. So thank you very much for inviting me, and brilliant to hear that the conversation is continuing in so many different ways.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Charlie, for being here and for taking time to highlight the fact that there have been so many difficulties. A number of the teams on the project have been incredibly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, among other things. So maybe you'll hear from them the ways in which they try to overcome that, but also the difficulty, for instance, of constantly having to have virtual meetings. So we're learning today some of those difficulties, given that some people can't turn on their cameras. But all of that to say, I think nonetheless, there have been some really, really positive impacts. And we're excited to share those with you. So thankfully, our introductions have kind of remained within the kind of half-hour segment that I allocated for that, which means we can jump straight into our kind of country-specific presentations a little bit early on. So that will be sharing their insights with us, the Brazilian team. I stated earlier, from Brazil, we've got Amanda, and she has a couple of other team members who may join us later, and she'll introduce them. But for now, I think Amanda will just give you an overview of the Brazilian context, what the major issues are there, what the climate action interventions were that were conceptualized and then implemented in the case in order to deal with some of the main issues in the context. So with that said, Amanda, I'm going to hand over to you. I can see your screen, you're sharing. But again, if we can't see Amanda's screen, please let me know. I think, Amanda, your video is also gone. I'm not sure if that's intentional or if that's an error, but
thanks,
We can see
Palesa,
her video.
okay, fantastic.
Great.
Go ahead, Amanda.
And you can also still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we can, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you both. So hello, my name is Amanda Salvia. I am a research associate at University of Passo Fundo in the very south of Brazil. And I'm representing today our team to talk a bit about our participatory action research, our interventions, and some of our impacts, dissemination activities, and a bit also on our challenges. I'm also representing today my colleague, Janaína Mazzucci, which is the male officer of our team, but unfortunately, due to some connection issues, she cannot be here with us. So I should start by thanking you all for being here today, for the opportunity. I think it's amazing to have this space for us to not only share the results, our activities, our impact, our challenges, but also to give voice to our early career researchers. Also, a big thank you to you, Palesa, for organizing and making this event today possible. So as you can see, I'm going to start by showing you the context of our university. You can see here our main campus in the city of Passo Fundo. And it is full of green areas, and it also represents the concern our institution has in terms of preserving these areas and working towards sustainable development. This was already true long before our initiative started at the institution, before the project Climate U. So we kind of connected that interest, that concern with the project. Here you can see in the next slide, yes, some pictures that we use to represent the actions that the university was already taking to support sustainability and climate action. So we had some activities related to operations. So we have the sector responsible for energy interventions, and we had implementation of a solar park for generation of solar energy. We had and we have been having several initiatives in terms of energy efficiency, of air quality control. We have some aspects of contribution towards nature and environmental preservation, and community engagement, learning, and teaching opportunities. So although all of this was already happening, we felt that these actions, these initiatives were a bit disconnected. We also had several research groups working on matters related to sustainable development, to climate change, but we wanted to make all of that connected somehow. And then we got to know this Green Office movement, which is a network of universities that have green offices, and they share the model for implementing a green office, and also good practices, challenges, and how to make the whole process of implementing a green office happen. This map shows that we have a high concentration of green offices in Europe, and we were happy to implement the first one in South America, in our university. This movement has been implementing green offices for over 10 years now, and it has the approach of giving the role of sustainable development, of climate action, and so on, to students. So students should lead the engagement and the learning opportunities. And we wanted that for our university as well, as this center to connect everything that was happening, and also to give this key and the central role to students. But our green office at UPF had an additional component of being implemented as a participatory action research. So here is the connection between the project, the context that we had at the institution, and the idea behind a green office. In order to have this participatory action research, we should take in consideration not only the views of the research team behind Climate U at UPF and the students. We should have an extended group of participants, of stakeholders, as we call them, also partners of the Green Office, so that they could be part of the process of reflecting on the challenges we have at the institution, on the potential solutions, and also in the initiatives themselves. So here you can see a summary of the stakeholders we selected in the beginning of the project. So we had local businesses being represented by means of energy and environmental consultancies. We had also junior companies and offices related to the courses of civil and environmental engineering. These companies are also have many students involved. We had social projects, NGOs. We had several sectors of the university participating as well, because, as I said, we wanted to acknowledge that the several activities were already happening, and we didn't want to begin something new. just to connect these actions and then together prepare new initiatives. We had also the Central Student Directory involved as partner and the secretaries of the local government. The involvement of these stakeholders happened monthly by means of focus groups, of meetings that we had. As we know, the activities started during the pandemic, so almost all of these initiatives, these meetings were held online, and this can be considered a challenge of the process, especially during the COVID and with everybody dealing with their own challenges in terms of personal and work lives. But here you can see some of the activities that we developed with these teams. We always try to select a topic for the meetings, and this topic would be useful for shaping the participatory action research. So we discussed about environmental impacts and climate change impacts perceived by the stakeholders in the region, and how the university could act towards improving or facing these impacts in terms of teaching, research, outreach, and in the operations as well. So all of these feedback received in these meetings were very helpful in the process of co-creating the changes and the initiatives we made. We launched the Green Office still as a remote office because it was during the pandemic, as I said. But when things got better towards the end of the year of 2021, we could launch this physical space, the actual office. And this was a key moment for us, because then finally we had this space so that the students knew we were there. And here comes the second challenge. We know that since the pandemic, many things could happen online, and this is great, as this event today. But there are some things that work a bit better when we offer the possibility of having physical events, for example, and having this space for meetings, for showing to students so that they can value more the importance of all of that. So here is the event of launching the office. We had Professor Tristan there at the time. And this office was prepared in a way to be really colorful and to invite the students to be comfortable there, to be happy there, so that they could visit us and have discussions with us, meetings, talk about research opportunities, project opportunities. We have a reference to the SDGs, and especially to SDG 13 regarding climate action. Here we have some pictures of our team. Some members of our team. We have a big team, a multidisciplinary team. We have members from engineering course, from biological sciences, from management, media, so architecture as well. So all these areas combined help the reflection on potential actions to be implemented. And now I want, just let me check the time. Yeah, I want to talk a bit about the three main areas of actions of our PAR, of our Green Office. The first one refers to learning and engagement. So the Green Office offers lectures, workshops, we visit courses to talk about sustainability, about climate change, about the impacts, about our role to change and to contribute to all of that. We also represent the university in events in the city or in the region, and also in international events. And here we have some photos to illustrate that. We have some games to be implemented with the participants of these events, so it's quite interactive. Here we have the screenshots of 2 workshops we offered about incorporating the SDGs in our daily life. It's called Be the Change, and we offered last year, in the previous year as well, and we might offer again this year. It's a very nice opportunity to discuss how it's our role to change the problems we see in the world. Every small change counts, and this is the message we want to pass to students and to the whole academic community. Another very nice activity that is within this first area of activities is the Sustainability Games. We offered the first edition last semester, and we had 75 participants forming different teams, and they competed for a prize. And the different games were connected to climate change with quizzes, and we had also the connection with other SDGs, as for example, gender equality, as poverty and hunger, with a game where students should collect food for donation. And this is one of the main positive feedback we received. The students were happy to see how they can contribute to sustainability in general and learn about climate change, also by means of interactive and fun activities at the university. So this was a very nice initiative. And here we also show some indicators we collected for the participants in terms of gender, in terms of groups that participated. We had the main group being represented by students, but we also had professors, staff, stakeholders, and several courses being represented. The second key area of action of the Green Office refers to funding small projects. So we offered the opportunity for professors, students, and staff and stakeholders to work in projects to be developed during one semester. And these projects should be connected with climate justice. So they receive a funding for these initiatives. And some examples are shown here as projects around water harvesting for a local school, support to local farmers events, the discussion around the importance of composting opportunities for these groups, also learning engagement opportunities for the community. We had also projects associated with sustainable architecture and how this aspect, how architecture should be revised so that it considers the impacts of climate change in the following years. And we also had a project around that involved the implementation of a tea garden at university close to the Green Office to raise awareness around health and climate change. This year, during this semester, we complete 14 projects funded by the Green Office. And I think the key aspect of this initiative is connecting the teams that work for these projects. So as you could see for these 4 quick examples, they are from different areas. They cover different aspects of climate justice. And we invite them for disseminating the results in a final workshop, and also for joining us in several other engagement opportunities during the semester. So these teams can communicate, share challenges, opportunities, and continue this network of good practices. So this is another interesting initiative. And finally, the third key area of action of our PAR refers to communication and dissemination. So the Green Office is also responsible for keeping the contact with all sectors at the university and collecting data to submit to the Green Metric ranking. So we had a very good result. Last year, we rose 99 positions in the international ranking, the global ranking, and we are considered the 14th most sustainable university in the country. And in terms of communication with not only the academic community, but also with local, regional, national, and international communities, we have our Instagram page. In Brazil, we considered and we created actually a Twitter page, but Instagram is considered one of the most effective and used social media platforms. So here we have the focus of our attention in terms of communication. And here we post about important dates around climate change and sustainability. We share suggestions on movies to watch related to climate change, on events to participate, results of our initiatives, of the projects, of the lectures. So it is a bridge between us and everybody that wants to learn a bit more and interact with us here. We offer, in addition to the posts about these topics, as I said, we also make interactions using the stories with questions and polls. Here you have some examples of polls around plastic waste that we offered in last July in a way to celebrate the movement of Plastic-Free July and raise awareness about this topic, about the impacts of plastic consumption and plastic waste. And then students and our followers have the opportunity to interact here with us and send comments on what we could be doing about this topic. And I think I should close now because of the time, but I wanted to invite you to follow our social media and also to have a look in our website where we share also a bit about the projects, the materials prepared by the team. And I just wanted to say that this was a quick presentation about our actions, but I think it's the beginning of a process of connecting everything that's being done about climate change, sustainability, and especially for connecting these topics. Because in our institution, we see that it's a bit difficult to talk about climate change. And you can talk a bit more about that, on the reasons behind that in the second part of the event today. but the Green Office was key in raising the opportunity to connect these topics and to discuss the challenges behind it. And yes, I think, thank you very much again for the opportunity, and I'm happy to discuss more about that, answer questions and comments that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I think that was a very stimulating way to start the morning off. Well, morning here in London, it's not necessarily morning for you. Excitingly enough, we already have a hand up from Kisampa. So what I'd like to do is give Kisampa permission to ask the question related to the Brazilian case. Just to add, okay, Kisampa, I see your hand has disappeared. Just to add any other questions, please pop them into the chat and we'll pick them up. For following each presentation, we've allocated about 10 minutes for discussion. And yeah, for those who raise hands, we're happy to give you the microphone and to give you an opportunity to speak, because we do want the platform to be as informal as possible. We want to flatten the power hierarchies and hear people's voices. So, Sampa, I'm not sure why your hand disappeared. Could you raise it again? Okay, it was a mistake. I'm going to try and give you speaking rights, so you can ask Amanda your question directly.
I'm not sure whether they wanted to ask a question, Palesa. I think it was a mistake to raise the hand.
Ah, okay.
So please,
Okay.
please do put questions in the chat if you have a question.
Okay, cool. If that raised hand was a mistake, and there are no questions yet in the chat or in Q&A, and no one has a burning desire to raise a hand at the moment, then I'd be happy to reserve our questions and comments for the end, after the Kenyan team have had their say. And maybe that's better, because then we can have a kind of more holistic conversation and try to pull everything together towards the end. So from Kenya, we have Jeremy, who will go first, but from the Kenyan team, we have two presentations at this point, which is, I think, really nice. So Jeremy, go ahead if you would introduce yourself, and then I think Eric follows after you. Yeah.
Thank you, Palesa, for giving me this chance to share our presentation. My name is Jeremy Munene Kaburu. I'm a research assistant in the project based at Kenyatta University. And I'm going to share my experiences, but also the process of setting up the participatory action research group in the 3 participating universities in Kenya. That is Kenyatta University, Kenya Methodist University, and Kisii University. And before I go into my presentation, I would like to state that one thing that kept me motivated to be part of this engagement is that this is the first time that I'm being involved in a project that relates to education, but aims to address some of the sustainability issues like climate change and environmental destruction. Having a background of environmental science, I was used to addressing these issues through activism, through protest, and it was also kind of a learning point to me to know that you can use education and to really create awareness, but also bring people together to address the climate crisis challenges. So it was an exciting experience to me to be part of the 3 PRG process. And I will just speak about the setting up of the team. Is that the researchers in the project relied on the Venn diagram to try and map some of the individuals and groups to bring on board so that we can form a team that can come up with an intervention that really addresses the challenges of climate change in the country. So as Palesa stated earlier, is that the project did not come with an intervention. It was up to the team in each university to sit down and agree the kind of intervention they wanted to implement. And this is an illustration of a Venn diagram. There are many illustrations, but this is just a sample of what we relied on. So the researchers noted that for the Climate2 project to have an impact in the country, it was necessary to bring individuals from the university itself, the government offices, both the national and the local, but also involved the communities where the universities are situated. And so the diagram really was of great importance to the researchers to try and see what are some of the similarities and some of the differences between a certain set of groups. And because you may find that there were actors in the academia and those in the civil society involved in climate education and action, and it was necessary to bring them together. There were those in government and the universities also involved in the wider engagement of community to come to try and address some of the challenges that the climate crisis was posing to communities. And so generally, the diagram was vital to ensure that we understand the stakeholders, their level of interest in the project, and how best to engage them, because there were certain individuals that you have to really keep close, keep them informed, but also there were those that you really needed to learn about their needs so that you address and they feel comfortable taking part in the project. And so in trying to come up with the team, there were some guiding questions that the researchers were relying upon, like who might be interested in the project in Kenya, and what are the which individuals or groups are likely to influence the project to ensure that the objectives are met, but also to ensure that there is continuity of some of the interventions that were to be developed. And so after the mapping using the diagram and providing answers to some of the questions, the three universities, a PRG group was formed of about 10 to 15 people. These are our stakeholders from different backgrounds. There were those representing the university. I'm talking about the university management representative. There are the faculty members from different disciplines, education, environmental science, and student also, because the researchers noted that students should not only be the recipient of knowledge, they have to co-create the knowledge, but also be involved in the process of trying to come up with an intervention that they are likely to be engaging. And there were also people from the government. I'm talking about the people in the higher education, people who are likely to guide on the policy formulation and influencing the policy that relates to climate action and higher education. We're also talking about the county government here in Kenya that are more closely, that work more closely with the communities, and not forgetting about the civil society groups. I'm talking about the NGOs that are really carrying out more practical projects to address some of the issues that climate change is posing to our communities here in Kenya. So after that is that there was a matrix to guide the level of engagement to try and ensure that there was a high discussion between the team to try and see that everyone's opinion and ideas were listened to and addressed. So for example, if we had someone from the, let's say the university management, and the reason for inviting them was that they are the link between the project and the researchers to the university management, so that we can have that support from the university in some of the interventions that the group was going to come up with. And for example, their role in the participatory action research would be that they are key informant in some of the goals and visions of the university that relate to climate action. And we would engage them either through core group meetings and try to ensure that they share their opinions, to ensure that some of the goals that the universities aim to address are well captured within the project activities. And level of engagement is, for example, the university management, we realized because of their schedule, they were very busy. Some of them were irregular meetings, so we would invite them when necessary to take part in the process. And for example, the students, we realized that they were co-participants in the process to come and share how best to improve some of the intervention that the university gives them to engage in climate action. And for them, we would engage them regularly to ensure that their views and those of their fellow students are well listened to. And during this process is that the student really played a key role, because, for example, I'm going to cover it later, is that they were of great help to ensure that some of the pedagogy approaches that the three PRG developed really were based on some of the learning interest of the student, to ensure that they have that interest to continue learning about climate action and environmental conservation in general. Then I'm going to talk more about the PRG expectation. Is that we realized that the opinions and ideas of the members were mainly informed by their professional background and the group interest that they were representing. For example, we had the faculty members who really championed for curriculum review, designing, and coming up with new courses and programs on climate change. Because for them, they are really engaged in the research and teaching. But we had different groups, like students who saying that no matter the intervention, there should be an activity-based learning for them. So to break that monotony of classroom engagement, the theory part of learning. And we had an agreement between representative of the national government and people in the civil society, who saying that the project should influence policies so that other institutions of higher learning in Kenya can learn from the project that it's possible to mainstream issues of climate change into their operations, either in community service, research, or in their programs and courses. And so there were some kind of conflicting interest between the groups, but to point it out, it was of benefit to the team because they realized that climate change is real, and despite our differences, we have to come to an agreement to try and see which intervention best fits the project. So after consultation is that the team agreed that the university should be the site of impact, because it's the university that is spearheading the implementation of the project. And in this part of the world, people view university with a high regard as an institution that is can transform the society by informing people about some of the emerging issues, coming up with the innovations. So they say that, why don't we have a project within the 3 universities so that community members can come to learn about some of the innovation that we have come up to address issues, but also so that we can give the student the necessary environmental skills, attitude for them to change their behavior and go and spread the word about climate action and issues that relate to sustainable development. And so initially there was some also conflicting ideas, because there were those of opinion that we should develop new courses that specifically touch on climate change. There were those that were of opinion that we shouldn't revise existing courses, so that we ensure that the courses are on offer by the time the project comes to an end. And so these were the level of discussion among the team, and it escalated to the point that there were some of the topics that were really contested among the 3 PRGs in the 3 universities. For example, Kisii University, all the team agreed that we need to come up with an intervention that will boost our agricultural practices in the area, because the university is set up in a rural area that relies on reed-fed agriculture. And they wanted now that since we have agreed that the university is the impact side, why don't we come up with a project based on agriculture? And then for KEMU, it was quite an interesting discussion. For them, they all agreed that all the issues and the concept of climate change to be mainstream in the courses, they had no objection with that. What they were contesting about is the title of their course, that if we were to come up with a course, what title should we use? For those that were advocating for climatology, they were saying that the opposing team was saying that if we were to go with climatology, there are some of the issues of climate change that may not be mainstream or brought into the course. And those that are of opinion that we need to have it as environmental science, they were saying that the student might not anticipate that they are going to learn more issues of climate change. And for Kenyatta University, we had a discussion that we need to cover waste management, because there were the issues of some of the greenhouse gases that lead up to the issues of global warming and climate change at the later stage. But all the PRG independently, without borrowing a leaf from each other's work, they decided that let us mainstream issues of climate change and environmental conservation into the curriculum. And I'm going briefly to touch about Kenyatta University and KEMU, is that at KU, initially they were of opinion that we need to revise a course that is only offered to students in the Faculty of Education, but they say that now that we have this opportunity to come up with a course, why don't we develop or focus on a course that is on offer to all students? And they selected a certificate course on leadership and leadership development and mentorship, where the two modules on climate change and sustainable development were integrated into the course. So the course is on offer. It was launched last year. It is launched annually to ensure that some of the issues that are revised and integrated into the course are well informed to the student and to the faculty members. At Kenya Methodist, they reviewed 2 courses, one on environmental health that is on offer to medical students, and there is also a 2nd-year course on environmental science, and to ensure that there is a build-up to students that want to learn more about climate change and related issues at the later stages of their career. And apart from the curriculum intervention, is that there were greening activities. These were practical-based learning activities that the student really advocated for in the PRG deliberations, because they wanted an activities that would not only sharpen their engagement, but also give them that kind of leadership to ensure that they build up before they go into the corporate world. And at Kenyatta University is that they launched the Green Education Hub, which coordinates the Green Education Days that are held every last Friday of the month. And during these days, there are several events, such as advocacy, as you can see at the bottom left of your screen. There are eco tournaments, sport themed on various issues of environmental conservation and the climate action. So as the students engage in these games, there are some of our ambassadors who going around the pitch, but also within the university, talking to their students about issues of climate change. At KEMU, Kenya Methodist University, is that for them, they are engaged in development of an institutional policy on climate change, because they realize this is a great moment now to come up with a policy that will guide their faculty members and staff on some of the issues that they need to address, either coming up with new programs, coming up with new activities, but also supporting existing community services that relate to climate action. So they have established a nursery tree plant of indigenous and orphaned crops that they use during tree planting exercises in 4 basic levels of four institutions of basic learning, 2 primary schools and 2 secondary schools in the immediate communities.
Jeremy, if I may interrupt you for a second, are you approaching the end of your presentation? Because if you're still going to have Eric and then Lincoln talking about videography and multimedia, then they might be constrained for time. And I really do want us to get to that aspect about communicating or publicizing the outputs of this knowledge co-creation.
Okay, then this is the last line before I invite Eric and Lincoln now to wind up.
Okay, fantastic, thanks.
Yeah, so to document some of the emerging issues from the discussion is that we earned audio recordings of every PRG meeting so that we generate transcript that we use to develop and come up with the reports. We earned also videos and photographies, And to disseminate that information, we relied on various forms of communication. For example, Twitter, which we have used to share information about the Green Education Days, post the e-poster, as you can see, and also use YouTube to disseminate information that is captured in the videos. We have relied also on blogs, because we have come up with a web page within the institution website that we give students a platform to create blogs to share the experiences of participating in these Green Education Days. Apart from that is that we have relied on the institutional television, the Kenyatta University. We have both we earned an opportunity to invite researchers from the three institutions to just share about some of the intervention they have earned in their university. And lastly is that our project lead wrote an article in one of the dailies to speak more about the impact that the project can create in the countries. But we have realized that some of the medias we used, we need to focus more on others, like policy brief, because policymakers might be in the social media, but they are not likely to take up information posted on social media. So thanks for that. And then I'll invite Eric to share more briefly about KISI.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. And just to add, I'd like to acknowledge the two questions in the chat. One is for Amanda and one is for Jeremy. So I'll hold on to those until the end. In the meantime, yeah, Eric, you and Lincoln have about 15 minutes to split between yourselves. So I'm going to be a little bit stricter, 7 minutes each. Please, Eric. But otherwise, nice to see your face and I hope you're well.
Thank you, Paressa. Happy to see you too and the rest of the team. I will be gracious enough even to donate some minutes back to you. Anyway.
Oh, thank you.
Now, thank you. I'm Eric Oyaro from KISI, Kenya, one of the affiliate researchers in the Climate U project. In the interest of time, whatever Jeremy has shared, has been a gracious and a precious experience to me, being part of the PRG group, more so in KISI University. But now I will go direct to some of the interventions that were talked about in KISI, one of it being the curriculum. Simply, we had to, it was very clear from the PRG group that the curriculum was the most preferred, but the fact that the new curriculum, it was suggested that it will have a different structure from other courses, by the fact that part of the practicals that will be examined or projects will be done at the local places of the students. And this, the PRG group said, it will inform and even have an impact that will spread all over the country, and more so in KISI, by the fact that the students will be allowed to do projects at their local places for them to be examined. By the point of doing their projects as part of the intervention to climate, they will have an impact to the locals during their and that curriculum, it's almost at the tail end of the stage. It will be starting being implemented by September this year. So we expect the cohort that will be coming in will be taking that course. Right. Next intervention was about during the qualitative case that we had to work with the smallholder farmers. During the PRG engagement with these smallholder farmers, it was very clear that due to climate change, they don't have the way they predict their the seasons, and because of that, during the engagements, we ended up, one of the outcome is a mobile app that is able to inform them of the planting seasons and what to plant, and many other issues that will come in an article that will come out. So that's one of another interval. Lastly, for greening activities, there was an innovation that came out about the gas fires. These gas fires are the gas fires that I believe there is a documentation about it. It must be with the project theme, that it uses very few firewood, and this will go a long way to safeguard our indigenous trees and help the climate interventions issues. Last but not least, there is something that came out that was very clear during this time about the dissemination and the documentation. I think Jeremy has talked about it. But for Kisii University, we decided to use the local media that will reach many people in a local language. So that's one way we intend to continue disseminating this knowledge of climate and even reach masses within the area, being an agricultural zone and Kisii University being at the local area. Part of it we are using is the local media to disseminate the outcome of the project and the interventions of the project. Sustainability, part of it, like me, I'm working in an extension office in the university. We intend that many of the extension services will be biased toward climate change. As we meet these local farmers, we disseminate part of the outcome to them. Thank you. I hope I've donated some few minutes back. Back to you, Palesa. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. You have donated a few minutes back, but also raised a couple of very thought-provoking points around the use of vernacular languages. And yeah, that's something I would like to pick up on a little bit later. But otherwise, I'll hand over to Lincoln, who will say a bit more about capturing the process of power using multimedia. I've met you once, Lincoln. It's nice to meet you again. And thank you for contributing your time to the Climate U project. We really appreciate it. So go ahead, Lincoln. You have about 10 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with every one of you. It's an honor, and I do really take this opportunity to just delve right into the discussion as well as share my contribution. Yeah, so having been a student at Kenyatta University and pursuing occupational health and safety, and with a passion in sustainability especially, I happened to reach out to the Green Education Hub as a climate ambassador, with the aim of acquiring knowledge and participating in climate-related matters. As you're aware, or rather, just to mention, I'm the founder of a club in the university in relation to UNESCO affairs, and having been very vocal about the knowledge and awareness of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Climate U project, and which is now as the Green Education Hub in Kenyatta University, came at a very vocal point where we had the platform, we had the access, but we did not have as much support from the administration as we wanted in terms of, getting that direct attention or direct response from the administration in terms of support, in terms of even acknowledging what we were pursuing or what we were doing as clubs. And it was an honor to be now part of the Climate U ambassadors in the university, where my skill set as a videographer and photographer were also of essence, because I realized through the project lead, Dr. Nyerere, Jacqueline, that they wanted to change the narrative. It was not going to be about newsletters, because students were not interacting with newsletters, especially after COVID-19. As you're aware, guys now transitioned into even the blended mode where people were more engaged on the phones and people were more vocal in terms of the social media platforms rather than getting the newsletters from the university. So the transition into using mainstreaming the climate education came as a very eye-raising opportunity for me, as in I was able to realize that this is going to be a different platform in terms of reaching to masses and reaching to many students. And therefore, the lessons I can say I have gained as a videographer for the project, one is the aspect of multiculturalism, where I'd say being able to relate with other nationalities and being able to relate with other cultures, and understanding that this is a complex and similar problem for all of us on the globe, came as a moment where I realized that this is going to be more of a journey that I'm not representing me as a student or us as a club. It's more of a voice that is going to connect with Brazil, connect with Fiji, connect with Tanzania, as well as learn from one another. So that aspect of co-creation was quite important and essential for me. The second point will be leadership. As I said, having been a chair for the club, the leadership bit was really nurtured in terms of being able to be part of the committee that came up with the Green Education Days, as Jeremy has raised earlier. As you know, every month, the last Friday, which was also an interactive and deliberative process. And I'm so humbled by the fact that the project lead, Dr. Nyerere, was sitting with us throughout the meetings. She never missed any of those weekdays. I can imagine she has classes, but she used to squeeze her time and just sit with us and, help us in choosing the best of activities. And particularly one that was very interesting to me was the role of media in climate action, which was a very successful Green Education Day at the university. We had the participation of the KU TV come on board and share the way they package, the way they relate, and the way we can use our own social media platforms to emphasize and also raise awareness about issues in our local community, so that if they need to get stories about climate change or climate action, they can also rely on the climate ambassadors. So that was very, very nice and very good to hear, because for a long time, the students have been hoping to be represented, have been hoping to be part of the process, but due to unavoidable circumstances and bureaucracy in the university, they are not able to connect with the right channels. So that was very, very was a very good lesson learned through this project. The other point will be mentorship in terms of understanding. And as you know, at the Green Education Hub, it's like an open space. So students are able to come in, and I noticed that this is a very good space for an early researcher to grow in terms of gaining knowledge and gaining experience and networking with the right personnel. So the mentorship bit is very much nurtured when you are in the Green Education Hub, because you're able to interact with Jeremy direct, a researcher, for instance, and he's able to give you maybe articles you can research on, articles you can go through, as well as maybe being able to reach out to the project lead directly. You don't have to maybe write a letter of appointment to see Dr. Nyerere. You just come and knock on her door and share your idea, and she's able to listen and able to, go through with the idea and advise accordingly. Because I also noticed there's that aspect of not just being relying on herself. As the PRG lecturers per se, or project researchers, they always have a weekly meeting within themselves to also now assess what the students have been proposing. So that is a very healthy space to especially see your ideas and feel acknowledged, and also get motivated to grow in this space of climate action. Yeah, I'll now delve into the aspect of videography, aside from now the aspects of leadership and mentorship. And I would say one of the greatest lessons I've learned is the use of micro videos. And this is to say very short, catchy, and entertaining videos. As I said, last year, we had another meet with the project lead from all the countries in the project. And I was able to share the aspect of having been at a workshop that was going on. It was the Regional Center for Excellence for Greater Nairobi. And Climate U happened to be one of the exhibitors at the workshop. I noticed students were really drawn. Students from high school, students from primary were drawn to our tent. Why? Because we had short videos that they were like, oh, okay, so in 5 minutes they understand climate change is a big issue. And you see, that is the point. You just want to first raise the awareness so that even as they're going back to school, they might be able to now ask in their classes. By the way, during our visit at Kenyatta University, we noticed that climate change is becoming a big affair. So what can we do as students and what can we start? And I'm so happy to say that I happen to follow the social media platform, and I also shared this link there. I hope some of them are in attendance here, especially the school heads, because I know students maybe are going home now. But I believe that I have already started seeing a trajectory in terms of commitment from high schools. They've started home gardens. They've started cleanup procedures. They've started even innovations, which is something that we have not seen before. And I also acknowledge the fact that the transition into a new curriculum in Kenya, which is called the CBC, the complementary based learning, is a great improvement, or rather is going to be a platform where Climate U going forward can be able to contribute and make sure that the issues regarding climate education and climate action are addressed adequately. Yeah, so micro videos have been very essential. Something I can also say is when I look at the students, especially this is how I want to give you like a normal green education day so that you can have a feel of how it goes. Yeah. So we first, Jeremy comes up with a post and he places it on the WhatsApp page, and the ambassadors immediately now start disseminating the message in their class groups, in their school groups, in all the WhatsApp groups that they know would relate with the issue of climate action. From there, guys now start compiling a list, and that helps a lot with the logistics in terms of knowing how to prepare. Maybe will the room be enough? Will maybe the university security need to be made aware of the people being involved in the lists, due diligence, because students can sometimes be rowdy when it's an awareness work, for instance, yeah. And then from there, upon compilation, upon presentation to now the project lead in terms of these are the number of students, these are the activities we have. We now have the D-Day, and the D-Day maybe starts with the registration just to ensure that the students who have who committed to appear are in presence. And this also helps even in the future when someone will claim that I've been a climate ambassador, but we're in the records. So it's a point of reference as well. And upon activities, I'm there with the photography, and as I said, I'm also trying to bring about the issue of mentorship. So I have 2 other friends who are really interested in growing in this space, and they also come on board and help me with videography and photography. And as the event is going on, we are trying to share the photos as soon as possible. As the event is going on, we share so that people don't just share phone photos or say, the event didn't have photos, the event was not visible. So as you can notice, during the Green Education Days, posts are already happening, hashtags are already going by, and this is with the help of the different club members and the different social media managers from the clubs and from other organizations that come on board. So that really helps spread the word real quick, and also now make it, you have to first encourage the buzz amongst the students. so that by the time they are coming next time with more friends, they say, hey, you know, last time when we went to this, we did these actions and these actions, and it just felt good doing something for nature. So yeah, I don't want to delve into that because I know my time is about to end, but something else I really enjoyed learning or going through this experience was the use of documentary screening. For instance, as I said, during the Green Education Day, where we had a screening of a very, very popular documentary amongst the students of School of Law, where they call it, it's termed the Journey to Justice. I recommend it to each and everyone. You'll be able to understand that the youth in Kenya are managing to, you know, speak up and do actions, and also create awareness about very critical issues in the society. Yeah, this is also going to be an attribute that will come on board from this project. I'm creating a documentary from all the activities we've had, from all the experiences and interactions I've had with the students, with the researchers, with even other stakeholders that come on board, like NEMA, that's the National Environmental Management Authority in Kenya. And we hope that this will also create a new atmosphere that, you know, can sell hope, can, you know, show that we are empathetic and show that we are dedicated to this cause, as well as motivate other researchers who will come later or after us beyond our career path to understand and know that they can make a contribution in their own unique way. Last but not least, in terms of advocacy, these Green Education Days and other activities organized by the Green Education Hub have really helped students to understand their participation, or rather their contribution to, you know, petitions at a national level. And, you know, that is very helpful when it comes to policies, and also the acknowledgement of raising awareness about an injustice that maybe has not been identified. So through other activities like the eco tournaments, students are also able to understand that sports can be a very unifying factor, which can be used to, you know, advocate on matters aside from just which team, like Chelsea and Real Madrid, which team won. Now, what can we do about maybe climate, because that is still going to stick with us. So definitely, I look forward to aspects of innovation and scholarships, as well as inclusivity, because those are some of the gaps that I've felt have not been quite addressed so far. I don't know whether I'm still in order and should be sharing this at this point, or maybe I should share later during the breakout rooms.
You should share later.
Yes?
Yeah, we're entirely out of time, but I'll let you finish your sentence.
I can hear you, Palesa, but I assume you're saying I should proceed. So
no, I'm not saying proceed. I'm saying you can share in the breakout rooms, but I'll let you finish your sentence, and then we'll move on to questions and have a discussion.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had muted on my end.
Yeah. So we have questions coming in for you, Lincoln. And I should leave enough time to take those. Yeah, but that said, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those insights, sharing where the participatory action research began, sharing what it actually looked like. I think the use of imagery is quite impactful. It's very difficult for us, the audience, to concretize what this means without seeing it visually. And both seeing it in still images, but also seeing it through videography. I think that's quite incredible. And I think one of the huge injustices related to climate change or the climate crisis is the fact that, you know, trying to communicate our research is so costly, and we do have to find these innovative ways that make it possible very quickly and very easily. Whereas on the other hand, kind of big corporates have the ability to completely rebrand themselves in these kind of greenwashy ways, using large amounts of money and exploiting exactly the kind of multimedia that, you know, gives off this narrative that they are in fact responsive to the climate crisis. So I think that's quite a disjuncture. But I'm really enthused by what's been shared this morning. I think it's fantastic. I am going to jump straight into the discussion bit, and the first question I'm going to take is from the chat, but I still want to say those who'd like to raise their hands to speak and share their questions, within the space, please do so. So one of the earlier questions to you, Amanda, was the following. With respect to the implementation of the Green Office, is there any prospect to expand to the urban centers, noting that where there was or has been or is expected to be some level of transformation? Okay, wait, I'm reading the question terribly. Noting that there has been or is expected some level of transforming the environment to a concrete status. Okay, so I guess the question is saying, if we expect some kind of level of transformation, is it worth expanding into urban centers? Is the prospect of expansion a worthwhile or yeah?
Yeah. Thank you, Palesa. And thank you very much for the question. I think it's a very important one. And also a challenge to expand to the communities, to these broader areas, especially because the initial idea of the Green Office was to focus as site of impact the academic community, so inside the university. But our university is a community university, so it should pay attention to the community level as well. So we connected our initiatives with the communities, with the urban centers at some level by means of the projects funded and by means of participation in events connecting the university, schools, local communities, and the local government. So that was the aspect of connecting all of these areas. In terms of expanding in a more concrete way, this is difficult to think at the moment because while we have several activities planned for the year, we also should acknowledge the challenge of continue with the Green Office at the institution after the project finishes. So we need to first advocate for keeping the activities as we have now and connect them with the academic level, with operations, with research, and then also with outreach, which is a key aspect, a key dimension of this expansion to urban centers. So at this point, I would say we know the importance of doing that, and we did at some level, but it's also challenging in terms of future. But we are confident that we can continue with the activities and maybe have some projects focused on that approach in the future. Thank you again for the question.
Great, thank you so much, Amanda. And I hope that that answers the question for HP. I can't see your full name in the chat, but okay, so I'll quickly move on to the next one, which is for Jeremy, and it's from Anielka, who says, I hope you're doing well, firstly. So I think Jeremy is well. Well, everyone is well. Yeah, it reads, I have a question to Jeremy. I was wondering if any of the students or staff involved in the activities at Kenyatta University are linking them to global citizenship education. or education for sustainable development. So maybe that's in light of some of the points highlighting how much the Brazilian work is very much linked to sustainable development and the SDGs.
Okay, thank you for the question, Anelka. Is that the project has had a lot of impact here in the country, and we can say that there are some working relationships that we have generated. For example, we had some organization join us for our event, and they give opportunities to some of our students to go and give guest lectures to their teams that relate to climate change education and environmental conservation in general. But we can say that some of the students are also self-motivating from participating in the project, and we have had I think there is students that have now launched their own community-based organization to try and push the agenda of climate action into their communities. So generally, I can say is that some of the impact that we are seeing at the national level, but at the international level it's the next thing that we are going to exploit to ensure that we have the continuity of the project. And I think there's the other question of acceptability of some of the courses that the institutions have come up with, and how do other higher education in the country is going to promote the success that the project has had in the 3 universities. Is that we have realized that even engaging some of the policymakers to try and bring other universities on board to mainstream issues of climate change into their curriculum, it might not be a good idea, because there are some institutions that will say we have agricultural courses. The aspect of climate change there. So what we saw best fit is now to engage the university level management across all public universities in Kenya. There is a conference of all the vice chancellors. So when you present these ideas to them that you can borrow from the successes of Climate U in greening the curriculum, so they will have that support that when the idea is presented now to the commission or to the national organization that brings universities to regulate the universities to develop programs, the universities will now accept, because their leaders are already informed that we need to green our curriculum so that we expose our students to climate action.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And I think the last point is a very interesting one relating to the issue of ambassadors. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in relation to participatory action research is kind of the burdensomeness of it for those certain key individuals or leaders or ambassadors who tend to be the champions of this kind of work, when it's not really institutionally embedded yet. And I think that's one way of highlighting some of the main challenges around climate action and trying to mainstream climate action. Okay, so it seems to me that in the chat, HP, you are the same person as Hippo. I'm not sure, I'm assuming this. So I'd like to take a question from somebody different. So I thought your comment to Lincoln was actually a question, but it's a comment. So I'll move on to Kisamba, who would like to know about the applicability level of the initiatives in climate actions and advocacy from both Amanda and Jeremy. And the question is, are those initiatives applicable outside Kenya and Brazil? particularly with respect to the development level and I suppose level of technological advancement in other contexts? That's a really tough question around replicability, I must say.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but I can try to answer. Is that I think it's applicable, but what we need to do is that we need first to have those local engagement, because universities are based in different geographical locations, and some of the factors affecting them may vary. So we can borrow from the participatory action research group to ensure that stakeholders in the locality can try and discuss some of the issues that they are facing, and try to see which intervention best fit for them. Because for our case, a curriculum intervention was the best intervention, so that we can raise a generation that is environmental conscious. But there could be an university somewhere based in a community that is really facing an urgent crisis due to climate change. So the intervention there might be different. So I'd go the PAR way and have some local engagement. But in terms of greening the curriculum, I would say that it's a very good initiative that all higher educations and even the basic and the secondary education institution can try and adopt, so that we have people who are well informed on some of the sustainability issues that we are facing.
Great, Jeremy. I totally agree with you. I think your response applies very well to our case in Brazil at University of Passo Fundo. We should consider the challenges in each region, in each institution, so that the approach can be adapted to this, to respond to the impacts and to the needs. But in general, it can be replicated well, I guess. And in fact, we have many universities in Brazil excited to implement a green office, following the green office model, the movement, but also with this participatory action research component. And we usually hear about the importance of bringing this component to the research and to the practice of implementing this office. So considering that we were the first ones in Brazil applying in this format, we are excited to see the green office to come, not only in Brazil, but also in other countries as well.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Amanda and Jeremy. And I do think that replicability has largely to do with taking into account the context. And one of the things that we foreground in, the PAR research methodology is the fact of having anyone who is setting up a PAR intervention ensure that they, achieve immersion. So contextual immersion through immersing yourself spatially in the local context, immersing yourself also epistemically in the local context. And I think one of the most useful things that I'm hearing often with respect to these PAR projects is the use of attempting to achieve mainstreaming, climate change information and climate action by making use of vernacular concepts in order to ensure that communities, students, the general public have better epistemic access to what climate action in fact means. And I think that for me is one of the things that has to be considered if yeah, you're thinking about setting up a participatory action research intervention in a different context, but also trying to draw from the lessons that you can learn from these two teams in Brazil and Kenya. So related to that a little bit, we have a question from Tracy. Well, we have two questions, but I think I'll take the second part of your question, Tracy. Okay, no, I'll say all of it. So Tracy and her team have recently joined the Climate U family, and we're very excited to welcome them to the family. They're based at Satyathera University. And so Tracy is saying, we would like to be able to share one thing. Would you be able to share one thing that is of utmost importance to the success of carrying out the PAR projects that you've spoken about? That's her first question. So one of you can take it, whichever one of you would like. And then the second one, she also says, if I may ask, in retrospect, was there anything in your research project you wish to tweak or amend? If so, what and why?
Oh my God, Tracy, that's so difficult, but I loved your question. I think it's perfect for us to reflect and maybe close this first part. So maybe I'll start talking about one thing, one aspect important for the success of the PAR. I think I need to acknowledge again the importance of a multidisciplinary team, and a team that is motivated and engaged in the cause, connected with the aim of the project, of the PAR, and happy to be part of all tasks. And because we know there will be challenges, and many challenges in engaging with the academic community or with the local communities. There will be time constraints and several other issues during the process of the implementation. Difficulties in the monitoring part as well, the reporting aspect. So we need a team that is committed and happy to be there and facing these challenges and working together and having these different ideas coming from different areas and combining these concepts and practices to do something bigger. So I think this is a point of success in our case, having this great team working for the Green Office. And the other part of the question in terms of something that we could tweak or amend, being totally honest here, I would say reflecting since the beginning on the best strategy to involve stakeholders from the beginning to the end, or maybe not to the end, but creating a network from this group of stakeholders, because we don't want it to end, right? But making sure you keep them involved and define a strategy to do that. Because in our case, it was difficult to do that. And we understand it is connected with the hybrid approach when we started with the online meetings, and then we could do the physical ones, but it was difficult because of time, because everybody was so busy and dealing with the challenges of the pandemic and having to work. So this is something to reflect on. Think on a strategy to keep them committed and motivated and feel part of the research during the whole process. Thank you again.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, in our case, what I can advise Tracy is that they have really to think about engagement and various forms of communication that each individual from the PRG is interested in using to share their opinions. Because from our experiences, we realize that there are some members who feel free to just speak and share their input. There are those that prefer emails, phone calls, and for students, they might not want to take part. So we want to come up with a sticky note, give them sticky notes so that they can share their ideas. And then later you can go and analyze the sticky note, write points that you can use to write report, but also to guide the next deliberation. So you must be prepared to come up with various forms of engaging each stakeholder. So during the first meeting, you'll learn more about the interest, the individual interest, and you must be prepared for that. And then on the part of something we can amend, we haven't really had any challenges, but what I can say is that sometimes you are overwhelmed by the data that you receive from the engagement, whether the research itself or the focused group discussion. So as a team, you must be prepared how to handle this data, because from it you can come up with really good publications or policy briefs that will go into detailing the success of your group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both Jeremy and Amanda. I think the questions were quite difficult, some of them, but well handled by the both of you. And I also want to say that, you know, the points raised also by Eric and Lincoln were quite incredible and quite striking. All of them, from the use of micro videos or the development of documentaries. I just wanted to highlight, Lincoln, send us a link where people can see this documentary so we can circulate it in the chat. I also want to say that as much as we're going to take a break now, we can carry forward some of the thinking that has emerged from this first session. And if any questions continue to arise in the next couple of sessions, we can link them into what has been spoken about now, which has been quite a lot, everything from eco sports, everything to as well, including kind of intergenerational, the project as an intergenerational approach to enacting climate action. And all of that, I think, is yeah, it requires us to think a lot about what the impacts of PAR are, what they can be, even going forward as well. And a lot of the work that's been done by the teams, as they're saying, will hopefully continue going forward as well. So with that said, we're going to take a half-hour break. I will not close the Zoom meeting. I'm going to leave it open, but if you'd like to leave, you're welcome to do so, and you should be able to come back in using your link. When we come back, we will hear from undergrad and postgrad students on their experiences of the PAR process. And I think that's particularly fascinating, precisely because that's going to foreground the issue of power and how power and marginalized voices arose or emerged within these sorts of PAR practices, and what are the lessons that students drew from being a part of the early researcher group. What are the lessons that we can learn as well from students? So I hope you will come back, and I look forward to further engaging. But thank you again, everyone, and see you in half an hour. Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy and Amanda and Lincoln and Eric.
Thank you, Palesa. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, everyone, it's 12:31 and I'm gonna kickstart this next session. So as I said before we took our break, this particular session is going to focus on the voices of students. And just to quickly highlight, some of the work that we've done on the Climate U project has tried to foreground who the main bridging actors are in society when we're thinking about climate change and climate action, and also disseminating the co-produced knowledges that emerge from participatory action research. So some of the bridging actors that we've identified in our conceptual framework, of course, include students. And that's why we see this particular session as quite important. We're going to start with the Brazilian team. And quite a number of students from Brazil have offered to speak. So again, thank you all for doing that. And it's much appreciated. I think it's also incredibly important and valuable. So far from the Brazilian team, we have Pedro and Gabriela and Giovanni. So I think let's take your contributions in that order. Later on, maybe 2 more students will join us and then they can introduce themselves and we'll take it from there. But the main objective is to get a sense of your experiences of the participatory action research projects, what you thought were some of the successes, what some of the challenges were as well. So shall we, I don't see Pedro on my screen, but that might be.
Hello.
Okay, there you are.
I don't know why, but my video has stopped. I don't have.
Yeah, I think the same is happening for Gabriela, our other student.
Okay, it's okay though. I think go ahead and start with your contribution and you can take about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll move on to others.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Pedro Henrique. I'm an architect and urbanist. I'm a PhD student here at University of Passo Fundo. My PhD advisor is Professor Luciana Brandley, who I think is here today. I work as well for the city of Passo Fundo at the urban planning department. So that is the main reason why my doctoral research is based on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Educating Cities movement. I started my PhD last year, so it is my 2nd year here at the University of Passo Fundo. And one of the first things that I got involved at UPF was the Green Office in the beginning of 2022. I was a volunteer there, and by the end of July, I think, Professor Brandley asked for collaborators for the Climate U project, basically to help Giovanna, Janaína, and Amanda in the research. So I started working on the project by the end of August, I think. I worked basically doing interviews with professors of the university. I remember interviewing Professor Marcos Frondoloso from the architecture department, Professor Gisele Zanotto from the history department. I also helped Giovanna and other colleagues with the focus groups dynamic. We had a great conversation with a few participants of the project at the Green Office, and I think it was a great moment. A lot of good stuff came out of that. Then I helped writing a little bit of the qualitative report of the case study carried out at the University of Passo Fundo. And now we are working on a paper to publish the most important results of the research. I think it was great starting my PhD helping with this project that's huge and involves so many great researchers, as we could see this morning. And I'm very pleased to be part of it and looking forward to meet some of you one day, maybe in Passo Fundo, I don't know. So that's it. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I'll have to leave you. I have an important meeting in other place in a few minutes, but I'm really excited to have had this meeting with you this morning. Thank you so much for the invitation, especially Amanda, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Pedro.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pedro. And it's a pity that you have to leave us, but if you can pop into the chat, maybe 1 or 2 comments about what your favorite aspect was of the participatory action research being involved in this project, and then maybe what the biggest challenge was, that might also be useful, and we can thread that into the discussions that we have as we go along. But otherwise, I think let's hand it over then to Giovanna, if you to give us a sense of experience on the project. No?
Sorry, we'd like to invite Gabriela first.
Okay, Gabriela, then Giovanna.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriela, and I am an undergraduate student at the University of Passo Fundo. I study biological sciences, and I am in the 7th level. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. So when I started at the Green Office in 2021, the proposal was still recent at university, and most students like me did not have direct contact with the issues that our work at the Green Office, such as the SDGs and climate change. At that time, it was my first contact with research, and that opened my mind to a new world. My courses address several issues in sustainable environmental practices, but the Green Office brings it in a different way, with a vision of research and scientific initiation at a global level. That at first took me a while to understand, but over time I understood how essential and how this perspective makes the difference to also understand the local aspects. The activities of the Green Office change from semester to semester and may not have an established routine. There are days with many tasks and days that are calmer. As I engage in several other study and research opportunities in the university, I need to do my tasks with the Green Office outside of the regular working hours. And this was my biggest challenge, as I was afraid of missing contact with the team. But the team always been very understanding and flexible about that, which helped me a lot to stay part of the project. The Green Office is also part of the Academic Sustainability Center that aims to provide student leadership, so we as undergraduate students see ourselves as key actors in various activities. And with support of the team, this greatly improves our professional growth and also the personal side. Well, we know that establishing environmental awareness among universities is essential, and the Green Office UPF has been doing this very well, mobilizing several courses, employees, and managers to learn about and adhere to sustainability and the SDGs. So being able to be a part of this and following this evolution is challenging, but also very rewarding. I think that's all from my side. Thank you again for the opportunity. I'm happy to be participating in the Participatory Action Research at University of Passo Fundo and being here today with you all.
Thank you very much, Gabriela.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriela. I just wanted to add that, reading the report on the participatory action research projects in Brazil, one of the issues that was highlighted was the need for students to balance both their student time as well as working time, because they needed to earn money, and then also volunteer time. So that's quite a focal point that you've highlighted, Gabriela, which I think is worth talking about a bit further in the question and answer session, when we think about what the main challenges are for students to participate on the sorts of platforms that are created for them to participate. Okay, that said, Amanda, who is going to be next? So I have down Giovanna, but you...
Also, Pietra is here with us, so I'd like to invite her to go next.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Pietra Thaís Bueno. I am an environmental and occupational safety engineer, currently pursuing a master's degree in engineering, and I am a volunteer at the Green Office at the University of Passo Fundo. So the Green Office movement can contribute to the education of students, as it encourages us to adopt a more conscious and responsible stance towards the environment and to understand the importance of sustainability in everyday life. Moreover, the movement offers an opportunity for students to develop skills and knowledge about the environmentally responsible practices and apply them in real life. Through participation in projects and activities related to the Green Office movement, we can learn to work in teams, develop leadership and communication skills, and have a broader perspective on the relationship between the work environment, society, and the environment. This can help us become more aware and engaged citizens capable of contributing to a more sustainable future. Volunteering contributes to finding a sense of purpose and meaning in life, helping to develop my sense of personal accomplishment and satisfaction. The Green Office is a space dedicated to sustainability and the environment. And as a volunteer, I can learn more about these topics and make the difference in the community. I actively participate through lectures, workshops, and activities developed in schools, universities, and external events. And I bring this knowledge with me to my professional practice as a sustainability consultant. It's magical to see the sparkle in people's eyes at the end of each talk or event I participate. Students are becoming increasingly concerned about sustainability and engaged with the topic in Brazil. That is my point of view. I'm motivated by the idea of being part of a larger movement that is working to promote positive change in the world and leave a legacy for future generations. And individual motivation is crucial to the goals of the Green Office. Some of the main challenges I see include behavior change. Changes people's behavior is one of the biggest challenges faced by the Green Office. People may be used to working in certain way, and they may resist changes in work practice, especially if they require extra effort or changes to established habits. Lack of resources is the other challenge. Lack of financial resources can limit an organization's ability to adopt sustainable practice. And institutional resistance, the implementation of a Green Office may face this too from other parts of the organizations that not see sustainability as a priority or may not be willing to change existing practice. In summary, the implementation of a Green Office can face a range of challenges from behavior changes and lack of resources to institutional resistance and lack of commitment. It's important to address this challenge with an integrated and systematic approach to maximize the chance of success in adopted sustainable practice. Our Green Office is privileged to have engaged, motivated, and inspired members. We have many meetings and initiatives focused on overcoming any challenge that Green Office may face. It's a united team, and I am proud to be a part of this team. Thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate being here.
Thank you very much, Pietra.
Yeah, just to add very quickly, Pietra highlighted in one of the meetings that we had when we were planning this event that we need to think about what it is that motivates people to participate in climate action research. And then we also then need to think about what sustains their motivation given the many challenges that they experience. So you'll see later on, we have an interactive session, and one of the questions is around motivation. So I wanted to acknowledge, Pietra, that that is something that you brought in. And I think the way that you raise it now and how you articulate it now is also quite incredible. So thank you so much. And yeah, I enjoyed your contribution.
Thank you.
So who next, Amanda?
Giovanna now.
Okay, now it's Giovanna. Over to you, Giovanna.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity for this great event. It's very nice to hear some early and young voices about researchers. So starting that, my name is Giovanna. I'm a civil engineering and PhD candidate at the graduate program of Civil and Environmental Engineering at University of Passo Fundo, Brazil. So today I will share a little bit about my experience as a researcher in the project Transforming Universities for a Changing Climate. And I would say that the project was one of my great experiences as an early researcher. And during this time, I was able to learn a lot from the professors and the researchers from the other countries than Brazil. And I could improve my knowledge about climate change at universities. I like to emphasize that the project allowed me the opportunity of working with the PAR methodology for the first time, making possible the implementation of the Green Office in the case of the University of Passo Fundo, which gave me so many opportunities to work together and developing some researchers and activities related to sustainability and climate action at university, such as workshops, courses, and all the process of the implementation of the ranking green metric at university. So working at the Green Office also helped me to develop my master's degree and now my PhD course. So the project contributed a lot to my progress as a researcher, and of course, as a person. So in the last year, I had the opportunity of coordinating the qualitative case study at UPF, which aimed to describe the academic community perspectives about climate change learning and engagement opportunities at university. And it was an incredible experience, but at the same time was challenging. Although all these researchers that we developed are mostly qualitative, developing the case study with the academic community at UPF and interviewing different people is always a surprise. Being able to interview different categories in different positions at the university allowed me to know the both sides, the view of the student, as well as the view of the professor and the manager of the institution. So I think this type of research are very interesting because they bring the real vision of each interview, enable the researcher to really bring about the change and act directly on problem solving. But sometimes this kind of research can be challenging because not always we have a great availability of time, willingness, and engagement from the participants. And sometimes the researcher needs to contact several people to participate in, and also adjust the time and the place to fit in the schedule. So during the interview, the researcher must try to receive as much information as possible from the interview and try to transmit tranquility and security regarding the confidentiality of the personal information, the points of views and opinions about the interview responses, and the recording of the interview, which can be an issue occasionally. So therefore, developing this research at the project allowed us to write papers and publish the results found, with the aim of promoting behavioral change and climate change education. Then, in general, what most motivates and instigates me to continue carrying out this type of research is the possibility of making real positive changes, both in raising awareness for the interview or the people in general, and create actions and initiatives that support sustainability and climate action, to contributing to making the world a better place to live. So that's why doing research is so important, because research can change lives and can change the world for the better. So I think that's it. That's my point of view and my briefly experience on the project and at the Green Office UPF. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Giovanna.
Yeah, fantastic, Giovanna. If I can just add, I think it's really interesting the level of sensitivity that you have towards participants in the participatory action research group and their vulnerability, although students themselves are quite vulnerable. And it's almost, again, referring back to the issue of what is the burden that climate action ambassadors carry themselves when they become leaders of this kind of work. So being that kind of leader means it's in some moments backgrounding your own vulnerability and recognizing the vulnerabilities of others and being sensitive towards that. So yeah, I think that's one of the incredible kinds of ways in which students are able to bring in an additional dynamic to help us to work through some of those difficult challenges of exclusions and vulnerabilities. So yeah, fantastic contributions, I think, from the Brazilian team. Any more, Amanda?
No, we wanted to bring Janaína here as well, as she couldn't join before, but she's still having problems with connection. So maybe in the next opportunity. And I'd like to quickly say a huge thank you for all my colleagues. It was great to hear you all. I know it can be challenging to present for an international event like that, in a second language also, and sharing your views on your experience, reflecting on that. I know you all are very busy, but thank you very much again. And I'd like also to acknowledge the other colleagues. We have some here and others that couldn't join, but we have a big team at the Green Office, and we selected some voices to be shared here today. And maybe the others can join in the breakout rooms later. Thank you, Palesa, as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Amanda, for that. And I also would like to take the time to acknowledge the fact that everyone who spoke was speaking as a second or maybe third language English speaker. That said, I think even when we perceive ourselves as unable to communicate certain things linguistically, emotively, we are very good at communicating our commitment to the work that we do and communicating how invested we are in that work. And I think that comes out a lot for me. So again, a huge well done to the entire Brazilian team, a huge well done to all of the students who've contributed to this work. And I do believe that it will be ongoing. It will carry itself on. Yeah. Okay. So with that said, I think let's bring in the Kenyan team. So as far as I understand, Jeremy, and you can correct me, from the Kenyan team, we will have Dennis as one of the speakers. But I'm also open to hearing more from Lincoln, because Lincoln, you didn't finish your contribution, but I don't know if you are in the Zoom. Otherwise, let's have Dennis. Lincoln, there you are. Okay, cool. So let's start with Dennis because he hasn't spoken, and then we'll move on to Lincoln. But Jeremy, I'm happy to hand over to you to do that, and I'll just chime in with some comments after each of the contributions.
Okay, thank you, Palesa. I'm joined by 3 undergraduate students. There is Dennis and Esther, who have been part of the participatory action research group at Kenyatta University. And there is also Lincoln, who is an ambassador now, not only involved in video making, but also trying to mobilize students across all faculties to join the Green Education Day. So I invite Dennis to share his experiences.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. My name is Dennis Mora, as you heard, a student from the School of Architecture and Engineering, a recent graduate. He graduated in December, the bachelor's degree in environmental planning and management. And I'm very happy and pleased to be in this meeting to discuss about climate change. I really have passion on how we can undertake climate action. I'll start by talking about my experiences as being a member of PRG, where I learned and gathered a lot of skills. The first skill that I learned and I gathered is teamwork, where through those meetings, we will be grouped as a team, not as a team of students or as a team of experts, but a mixture, where I will be in a team with the directors from a County Director of Environment or NEMA, can be in a team with the lecturers. So you gain teamwork, you talk together, you give each other ideas and get to learn more about these climate change issues. The other skill was about presentation skills, where through this, I will learn how to present my ideas, my strategies, my views on climate change. And this is really helpful to a student in all around the world. The other skill is critical thinking skills, where through these meetings, you will really have to think a lot and give ideas on how we can combat this climate change, which is a very, very important thing as a student. Also through this, I got to network with a lot of experts and a lot of professionals not only in Kenya, but also throughout the globe, through these online meetings and also the meetings that we had, physical ones, which was also a great plus to us as students. We also had to go to various amazing and beautiful hotels in this country, which is also an amazing experience as a student. And I like to thank the PIRG team for that. As a student, I have some various also inputs where I also had to give views on the need to have social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all other Twitter and all other social media platforms, because as youths and as students, that's where we go and get information. And through that, we can educate more people and create awareness about this issue of climate change to many youths around the country, around the world, and this will help in combating this climate change. I also gave views on the need to have practical field experiences by students on various climate change issues. For example, when I was in second year, we'll have practical field experiences where we will have studios, something called studios in our School of Architecture and Engineering, where we went to Kajiado County to look at the impacts of flooding in Kajiado County. We as students will go there practically, see the impacts such as loss of properties, the destroyed schools, infrastructure, where we will have real life experience and seeing all those impacts of climate change. And that will be a very, very good initiative if it is done to other schools and other places around the world, where students can also, and other youths can also learn real life situations, how these things are going on around the globe. I also got a chance to be interviewed by KU TV and on the various experiences as part of PIRG, where we'll talk to not only to KU students, but the country and to the globe about what PIRG are doing and about what students in KU and other universities are doing towards this combating climate change. I also got the opportunity to give my views on the need to incorporate climate change issues into the curriculum, both from primary, secondary, and the university levels, because you start from primary. That's where you start to learn how to grow trees, how not to litter, how to conserve our environment well. And these are the issues that bring the foundation for climate change adaptation and mitigation in our country and around the globe. Not only did I do that, I also mobilized students to take part in a climate use survey, which was undertaken last year and last year but one, where students will provide their diverse information about how they view climate change, how they view what are the means in which the students can get more information about climate change and issues surrounding it. And that was a good platform for us. I also learned from stakeholders the importance of climate change being mainstreamed into all aspects, not only environmental students or students doing agriculture, but students doing all courses such as law, medicine, all courses around the globe. We also, as students, got the chance to participate in the Growing Leaders program, which was incorporated in Kenyatta University, which had vital modules such as climate change and sustainable development, which is a mandatory course now in Kenyatta University for all fourth-year students before you graduate. This is a good opportunity for all fourth years who are finishing, because we are the ones who are going to the corporate world to know more about climate change, and we will be the climate ambassadors all over the globe. And the last point is about the Green Education Hub and Green Education Days, where through this PARG, we got to create the Green Education Hub, which is a leading center of excellence in green education and sustainable development in higher education. This Green Education Hub has the opportunity to have a Green Education Days where there are amazing themes, such as last month's Green Education Day, we had the theme Opportunities in the Blue Economy, where students participated in something called a Mazingira Challenge. Mazingira in English is the environment. So Mazingira Challenge, where we will have students being asked questions about our environment, about how we conserve our wetlands, our natural resources, how we are planting trees, how we can get more means to combat this climate change, which was also amazing, and many students participated. We also had the Green Education Tournament to mark Africa Environment Day and Wangari Maathai Day, where we celebrate Wangari Maathai environmental conservation efforts by holding an eco tournament, as it was said before. We also had the theme, the role of media in environmental awareness, which is also a very, very important theme, since the media is a very important tool in creating awareness on climate change issues. And lastly, we have the promotion of talents, where there's one of our students and also a Green Education Hub ambassador called Jesse David, who went to COP27 and came up with a song called Hope You Can See. It's even in YouTube, which is a tool of climate justice advocacy in telling people how climate change is a global crisis and to encourage people to make it a step towards combating this climate change issue, which was very, very important. And lastly, I have a suggestion on how we can incorporate GIS, Geographical Information Systems, into our activities as PRG and Green Education Hub, since we can have ways such as creation of story maps. Story maps are web maps which have been thoughtfully created and given context and provided with supporting information so that it becomes a standalone resource. These story maps, they normally show like an experience of how a situation is in a country, an area, a county, which is very vital in this study of climate change. And also the last thing is we can have international networking among students from Kenya, from Brazil, and from all over the world, where we can have the creation of ideas, strategies, entrepreneurship can be done, where as students and also as our lecturers and all the other agencies, we can talk about this issue through the international networking and come up with vital, sustainable ways to combat this climate change. Yeah, thank you so much. And those are my experiences and some of the lessons. And have an amazing day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, for sharing your experiences. I now invite Esther.
Hello, everyone. My name is Esther. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Palesa, for this opportunity. Thank you for giving me this chance to talk about my experience in PARG. And I'm quite surprised that Dennis has almost everything that I wanted to say. So for my experiences as a student, I loved how PRG incorporated large stakeholder involvement, or rather large actors from different departments. Like Dennis had said, the actors who are involved in this contribution in PRG, I mean, they shed light on how climate change is being done in their departments. And they also gave us, that sense of belonging as students, that we are not little people, that we can also contribute very much to the climate change and also the climate change action. And also like the idea of Green Education Hub, whereby there is involvement of education or rather environmental clubs for sustainability purposes. And this incorporates all students from different departments coming together for, a common purpose or a common goal towards climate action and climate change. And I also like how this PRG incorporates different universities from Brazil, from Fiji, from Mozambique. From my point of view as a student, currently I'm taking a project on climate action in universities. And I'm trying to look at ways in which different universities are contributing towards climate change, what they have done to mitigate or combat the climate change. And my main area of study is Strathmore and KU. I'm trying to see what Strathmore has done, because it's a very unique university in Kenya, known for its contribution towards climate action. And also, as Dennis had said, in our department, we go to studios, and for our regional studio, we went to a place called Kasigao, which is in the Savo. It's a wildlife corridor. Basically, they're involved in carbon emissions and trading. And I liked how the aspect of, they gave us an aspect of students can also get involved in these actions they can get involved in also, trying to conserve the environment. I liked how the community were also involved in planting trees. And I think that's it for me. Dennis has said quite a lot. I think I don't know how he got a hold of my notes, but I want to thank you and appreciate you for giving me this opportunity. And I am sorry I have to leave. I'm trying to collect data in Kenyatta University for my project, and we'll share more in other times to come. Thank you.
Okay, Esther, thank you for your input. I think Lincoln presented earlier, but there might some points that he wants to share, perhaps in a few minutes, Lincoln.
Thank you once more for the opportunity. I'll just unmute. All right, so my points were in to just wrap up what I was saying earlier. I'd just like to first follow up where Dennis was speaking about the name Jesse, and I'm just sharing the link to his music video. He was able to present this song at COP27 just to show that the youth are quite conscious of the aspects relating to climate justice, and it's quite inspirational that he was inspired from engagements with fellow students in the university. So I'll share the link as I'm speaking, but moreover, I was just wrapping up on the issue of inclusivity, where I was saying the project has really tried to incorporate and involve special needs students, the disabled, and other people with disability, which is a very good aspect. I noticed, like, during the hybrid event last year, the lady who led us in a very beautiful, she's in the School of Music, but having come to attend a climate activity, she was able to understand that there is much more, and she can also be accepted into a community that, not only delves into sciences, but appreciates art. So that is very commendable from the project. I would also like to bring about the issue of multilingual aspects. As you're aware, Kenya, for one, has almost 42 communities, and all these communities have a local dialect of their own. And as at now, we are using English and Swahili to, disseminate most of our climate education. I'm curious how I would be able to explain to my grandmother about climate change education, yet I don't have the right terms at some points to relate to the local dialect. So that's something I would really hope as we go ahead, we try and think through, because I know even other students who are climate ambassadors and from other regions, like the Luo, we have the Luya, we have the Maasai. All those dialects are people who are being affected by climate, but sometimes they don't know how to put it. They will only associate it with, the gods are angry at us, and those are issues that we can explain scientifically in a very relatable manner for them. Last but not least is the issue of saturation of social media information. Well, a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and at times hate speech is propagated on social media platforms. And I feel the Climate U, as well as the Green Education Hub, can be a sane voice in this whole tantrum. So how can we try and identify ways to disqualify certain information that is spread out that is not true, that is at times misleading, and even at times makes people like in Kenya, since maybe sometimes you don't know, people have at times people tend to associate the rich are the ones that are causing climate change, but they don't understand that it is each and everyone contributing to the whole issue of climate environmental degradation in their own way or in their small way. So how can we enter into the social media platforms and be a sane voice and be a tool that can be able to guide conversations? So the introduction of maybe Twitter Spaces, because that is quite famous here in Kenya. But unfortunately, these Twitter Spaces are open to a lot of politics. And this politics sometimes is discouraging even the youth to be on the social media platform, because they're like, me, I want peace, I want freedom, I want some calmness, but all you get on social media is politics. Oh, what? I don't know that and that, but I believe we as a team, as early researchers, as we are discovering the novel media platforms, we can really be sane and we can be able to correct what has been done in the past that was not right. Yeah, I think that's all that I was yet to say, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I will try and share the link so that you guys can hear. I don't know whether our friends from Brazil are quite conversant with English lyrics, but I will ask maybe Jesse to learn some Portuguese and do a version in Portuguese on your behalf. Thank you.
Okay, that's all from us. Just to add a little bit that before, when the project was launched, we explored the possibility of using Facebook and Instagram, and we didn't gain a lot of branding or following these two platforms. It was now up to the student who advised us that you can try Twitter, because there was this movement, the Fridays for Future, that was really gaining ground in Kenya, and all the civil society and people from government were now opting to use Twitter to communicate. And when we created our account, now we under quite huge following, people from different universities, even our neighboring countries. We've had organizations that have seen our post and they have joined our event. Actually, every Friday we have different organizations. Some are regional, and they are leading now to, they are become opportunities for us to exploit some of the regional networking. And the other thing is that most of our activities here at Kenyatta University, they are now becoming student-based, because initially we used to tell them that we are more into awareness and sensitization, using the education as a tool. And for them, they were like, no, we need now to go into the practical bit, activity-based learning. So actually, they are the students that are spearheading some of the activities we are carrying out during the Green Education Day. So thank you, Palesa. That's all that we want to share from the Kenyan team.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jeremy, and thank you to the entire Kenyan team. Like I said to the Brazilian team, I think your contributions were incredible. Dennis, I just want to say shame on you for stealing Esther's notes, but Esther, you did a great job of recovering despite that. And I think some really key issues were raised as well. There were some things said around, the importance of entrepreneurship and how new businesses are established in ways that are sustainable. In ways that ensure that we, aren't participating in the kind of growth fetish where we're obsessed with profit and maximizing financial outcomes as business owners. But more than that, I think the other interesting thing that has come out from the different cases on this project has been the role of social entrepreneurship. So the kind of entrepreneurship really that may not have those financial rewards. And yeah, so it's nice to have heard that coming from students, and again, hearing students recognizing what it takes normatively to kind of change the way that things have been taking place over the past couple of years. And then to add a little bit to something else that was said, I also appreciate bringing in Indigenous knowledges, using different modes of communication like poetry or music, because I think there can be the tendency to hyper-instrumentalize climate action research or how we disseminate it. And not everything that we are co-producing in terms of knowledge only has instrumental value, but it's got cultural value as well. And that cultural value is important because the role of education is both, yes, instrumental, but also intrinsic. So that was an interesting point, I thought. And it kind of links in with the question around vernacular languages or how to communicate climate change concepts to elders who don't necessarily understand climate change concepts when we express them using English. So I thought all of those inputs were quite fantastic. So thank you to the Kenyan team. And let's take questions and comments. There are none so far in the chat, but if anyone is interested in raising their hand, I think a lot can be said or commented in terms of what we've heard so far. So we'll take about 10 minutes, maybe even slightly more, to get something from the floor. If there's anyone who's not shy, please raise your hand and I'll pass the microphone to you. You don't have to have your video on, just maybe a voice comment or question.
Maybe in the meantime, while people think, I just would like to say it was very, very nice to hear from the Kenyan team as well, and to share this whole event with you. I think we have several similar ideas and challenges and how we approach the PAR on one hand, and on the other, I think we can learn, we always learn a lot from your experience and from your reflections. Especially today, I could mention the aspect of the ambassadors. So I think this could be a key strategy in our case as well. And as we plan to continue the activities of the project of the Green Office, I think we will certainly consider this idea for the future.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for that contribution. And if I could add something to that, because I don't see questions or comments yet, I think one of the concerns that come up in the participatory action research reports that have been submitted by the teams, one of the concerns has to do with the fact that, students are in the university today, but they move on quite quickly. They stay for about 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 if you're lucky, and they go on to do undergrad studies. But how do we ensure that the ambassadors that we have mentored and supported remain with us? Part of it, yes, of course, is self-motivation and the kind of just interestedness in these issues. But I think another thing may have to do with kind of mainstreaming climate action into the alumni network that universities have. So often those kinds of university networks aren't necessarily, they don't specify or differentiate the different roles that people may want to play if they want to continue maintaining a relationship within the university. And I wonder if there are strategies that we could think of in order to create those opportunities and to say, hey, you work with the Green Office as now one of our alumni, where would you like to focus your attention? Would it be perhaps in maintaining that relationship with the Green Office? maybe even linking that relationship into your new job or your current work or whatever kind of community participation you are now involved in. So I think there are a couple of innovative ways in which all of this work can remain ongoing across different contexts. And that's one kind of replicable thing that comes to mind for me. There's a hand raised by Vera. So Vera, I'm going to promote you to panelist and you should be able to speak now. So the floor is yours. Can you hear me, Vera? No? Okay. I think we need to wait for a moment for Vera to accept the invitation to speak. Vera, if you can hear me. Okay. I'm going to try again to promote you to panelist. And if you on your end will give it another go and try to turn on, well, firstly try to accept and then try to turn on your mic, that would be. Okay, Vera, I see the microphone sign next to your name, next to your icon. Can you try and turn on your microphone and speak? Okay. So we've had a number of challenges today with technology. If you don't mind, Vera, if you're unable to turn on your microphone, then maybe type your question in the chat and we'll take it and I can pose it to the rest of the floor. Otherwise, other than Vera, are there any other comments or questions that anyone would like to raise for students? I think a number of interesting issues were flagged and it would be useful to spend another couple of minutes kind of mulling them over and fleshing them out. Okay, if there are none, I have one question. It's coming up in the next session, but I maybe will pose it specifically now to students. So as we stated earlier, one of the questions was around motivation. So what got you motivated in the first place, but then also what sustained your motivation? So if anyone would like to take that question and bring it up now, and then it'll be posed later on to the wider group, I think. No, no one was motivated. Nobody stayed motivated.
Okay, I will start and then I want to hear from my colleagues as well. So I think as my colleague said, my motivation is related to the desire of seeing a change. When I was an undergrad student, I felt I missed an office like Green Office, what Green Office represents now. So for me, it is rewarding to be part of this context now where we can offer to new students, the students for undergrad, graduate students, so that this space can be a connection between different areas with research opportunities, with challenges like this one today. So I think this is my main motivation, being part of something I really wanted in the past, but I can be part now. Pietra, I would like to share your motivation with us.
Yes, I'm motivated by the idea of being part of a larger movement that is working to promote positive change in the world and leave a legacy for future generations. And I think this motivation is crucial to contribute to the goal of the Green Office movement at the University of Passo Fundo. Like I said, I think it's magical to see this sparkle in the eyes of the people, in the people's eyes when I participate in the schools, universities, and external events, talking about my professional practice in the Green Office.
Great, thanks, Pietra. Gil.
As I said before, I think that my biggest motivation is to really change people's mind, people's behavior, and like positive change. You know, as when we do some researchers and some works, and we see the transformation of the young generation, as Pietra said, the future generation. So I think is that what most motivate to continue to do some researches like that and so on.
Great, thank you both.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you both so much. I want to squeeze in Charlie's question, and maybe we can have a response from one of the Kenyan students very quickly before we break into our last, well, not last session yet, but the next session. So Charlie's asking, she says, I'm really interested to hear from students how staff can better support these incredible outcomes. How can we continue to transform hierarchies together? So if there is any input from the Kenyan team on that, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you. Before I comment, it's good to hear the student voices. Perhaps Dennis, you can comment on that. How can we better ensure that there is support for the interventions that the project has already earned at Kenyatta University? Dennis, are you able to turn on your mic? Lincoln, you can come in.
Yeah, thank you. I'd say, for instance, would be of great. It would be of great essence if, for one, maybe student exchange programs were initiated, so that we are able to also get a feel, you know, change of environment and change of communication in communities is quite vital when it comes to being able to process and understand, you know, such a complex topic like climate change. Something else I would say would be there is need for more field excursions, especially in Kenya. Our curriculum is so theoretical. It's so class-based. You're in between four walls and you're talking about a world with rivers, a world with the mountains, a world with the ocean. And yet all that is not something that we are allowed to access at a young age, because I believe creativity and innovation will come from hands-on experience, being exposed to you know, such phenomena. That's what I would say is my contribution. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, Lincoln. Perhaps I can comment on that, is that we need continued engagement between the faculty members and the university management to ensure that there is support for the interventions that we have already earned. And because, for instance, we might have come up with a course on climate change issues, but it needs to be revised quite often. So we have to quite engage the management to ensure that there is always institutional support. The other issue is on capacity building to the faculty members, because like for the course at Kenyatta University that is taught to all final year students, some of the instructors do not have an environmental science based. So if there is that capacity building for them to ensure that they deliver the courses, pass on the climate change information to the student, it will be of great importance to ensure that all members from the faculties are well informed on how to deliver these courses, and also be motivated to not only engage in some of the practical activities the students are taking part in, but also support them, link them to their networks and other projects. I think that's all from I don't know whether I've answered. Charlie, up to.
I think you have. Thank you so much, Jeremy, as well as Lincoln, for your contributions. There's just one more thing that Amanda has popped into the chat, which I want to give a quick read. And then I'll close this bit and we can move on to the next session. She says, I think teaching staff could contribute by considering the need to offer time in class for activities related to climate change. So they could also provoke students in terms of ideas for research and community engagement, and they could reflect on how global and local challenges relate to the topics studied in class and how these challenges affect them specifically. So yeah, agreed. Thanks, Amanda, for that input. I think, yeah, together with what has been said from Kenya, we've got kind of a rich enough input around Charlie's question. Yeah, so just to say, I think this was an important exercise because personally, I had never met any of the undergrad or postgrad students who've been behind the scenes doing this work. This was a first for me, and I found it incredibly valuable. I mean, I've seen your faces occasionally, one or few times in really large meetings where we're all a little bit too nervous to speak, myself included. So this was, I think, a really kind of full engagement that we got to experience with one another. And I want to say again that together with the Association of Commonwealth Universities, as well as Joel, who's at Durham, we really want to continue having this kind of climate resilient researchers network where we have short little get-togethers. They won't be long like this one. Maybe hour-long get-togethers where we just exchange ideas around a particular theme. And I think that that's quite important. We can better build relations between ourselves. You know, the Kenyan students can actually have more engagement with Brazilian students and actually exchange ideas a little bit more. So thank you again, and I will see you in the future. Yeah. So with that said, I'd like to lead us into our next session, which kind of ties into what Charlie was asking already, about how staff can support students with respect to achieving the sorts of outcomes that we want on participatory action research projects. So we're going to break out into rooms where we'll talk a little bit more about kind of bridging the gaps to achieve, firstly, you know, further participation in climate action, further knowledge co-creation, as well as further knowledge dissemination. And we want to focus on a few key kind of areas. So I'm going to share my screen so that I show you what we've got. We've got a little Jamboard that we're going to use in each of the groups, and you can populate the Jamboard with your ideas in your group. So in front of you, you should see what we'll circulate to everyone once we've created the groups. So to think about bridging these gaps in participation, knowledge creation, and dissemination, what are the different roles that each of these aspects plays in bridging these gaps? How can we improve the roles of each of these aspects in bridging the gap. So what needs to happen more in terms of leadership? So what are the challenges we've experienced? What are the ways in which we can move forward from those challenges with respect to leadership? The same goes for stakeholder engagement. What have been the challenges? How do we think we can move forward? Same also with the role of social media. And while I think on the one hand, it's great that we can make use of micro videos, it also it presents the challenge that we've only got a couple of minutes to squeeze in huge context around a very, what's considered a multi-crisis, right? The climate crisis is a multi-crisis. So how do you communicate the extent of the crisis to people in 2 minutes, for instance, in a micro video? And then finally, for those of us who haven't answered the question yet, what is your motivation? What do you think might sustain your motivation to continue being a climate resilient researcher or climate action researcher? So Jeremy will create our rooms for us, and I think we can take about 25 minutes to chat in the rooms, use Post-its to populate the Jamboard. So these are off on the side and you can write your notes, blah, blah, blah. I am motivated by wanting to be alive in the next couple of years, for instance. And then you'd put that on your board among some of the other ideas that are raised. Okay, so that said, I think we can reconvene again just after 2:05 GMT +1 time. Yeah, so that's in 25 minutes. But before I go on to that, I saw a hand. And I don't know if that hand was a mistake because there have been several mistaken hands or if it was a real hand. No, no real hand. Okay, cool. Then I think let's go ahead and break out into groups. Jeremy, let's do 4 groups because we have 4 Jamboards with which Jana and Amanda helped us to create. So if we can do that. And as soon as each person is able to join a group, I'll let you know.
Okay, Palesa, I'm creating the groups now in a few minutes.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Palesa, we should pause the recording for breakout rooms, otherwise there's a weird.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Charlie, for